from PRX.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary and swamp-based beings, it's time for the podcaster who's being there for you, to keep you company. Was that the movie where with Chauncey, the gardener, being there, right? That was that movie. That's a very obscure reference. If it's a question, did you study film in school? Then you've seen being there probably, or especially if you had like a liberal arts education. Otherwise, you might say, Scoots, been there. You going off, but you're trying to do the teaser for the show, and you already went off topic, and it's not even. And I said, you got that right. I'm no Inspector Clouseau or Chauncey the gardener, because it's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. Hey, before we move forward here, remember, Sleep With Me is built on empathy and compassion, and that means being here for you through the podcast. It also means that I provide resources in our show notes. If you're looking for, you need to connect with someone right now, there's organizations you can connect with in the show notes. It also means supporting the members of our community and not just saying Black Lives Matter, but offering you resources to join me on my journey, too, of change and looking at how can we do better. So there's going to be links to organizations that can support you on that journey in the show notes. And when your hand hits the fridge tomorrow, you could look those things up. You could check out these sponsors that enable me to be here free for you twice a week. Hey, everybody, it's Scoots here. I got a couple quick questions for you. I always ask these, like, how many episodes of Sleep With Me do you listen to a month or a night? Is it 4? Is it 8? Is it 12? So that's question 1. Question 2, how much do you pay that mega cable corp or super streaming service, every single month? And then would you give Scooter a raise? Like, would you give Scooter a raise compared to what you pay that streaming service or your cable company from $0 to $5 a month, or from $0 to $10 a month, or $0 to $20 a month? And you might say, Scoots, this is a free podcast. That's the wackiest thing I've ever heard. And I say, yeah, those are the people I'm looking for. If you're in a stable financial position, you get value out of the podcast, especially considering the stuff you pay for every month. And then, yeah, are you that 1 out of every 100 people that's just wild enough to say, wait a second, I get what you're saying. I'm going to give you a raise from $0 a month to $10 a month because you're worth it. Because I get a lot out of the podcast. I listen every single night. And some of you might say, well, you might be like, you're a tougher boss. I get it. I respect that. And you might say, well, come into my office, Scooter. Yeah, you put me to sleep every single night or 4 nights a week. But what else is in it? And I say, okay, $5 a month, you get ad-free episodes. $10 and $20 a month, you get bonus episodes, all intro episodes, all night episodes. There is so much in. I don't know. Are you the kind of boss that's wild enough to pay for a free podcast? Are you the kind of supervisor that's so wacky you'd go from paying me $0 to $5 or $10 a month? Well, if you answered yes, and that's okay if you don't. Really, it's only a small percentage of people that really are that wild. So if you are that wild and you're in a position to do so, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. You could support the show. You could give value back for the value you get out of the show, and you get amazing bonus stuff. You're a part of an amazing community, and you're a rebel. You're so rebellious to pay for a free podcast. That's at sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody. Sleep With Me is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. In May's Mental Health Awareness Month and throughout June, Sleep With Me is proud to join the cause of destigmatizing therapy. If you've been struggling with relationships or having difficulty sleeping, meeting your goals, if you've been feeling anxious or stressed, BetterHelp counselors can listen and help. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional. You could start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. And BetterHelp's therapists have a broad range of expertise that may not be locally available in your area. The service is available for clients worldwide. All you need to do is log into your account anytime, send a message to your counselor. It's super easy to schedule weekly video, phone, or even live chat sessions. And BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches so they can make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. And so many people have been using BetterHelp that they've been recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. And again, I'm someone that utilizes therapy with a licensed therapist. It's a huge part of my ability to be here, to make the podcast, to live my life, and to be present and to flourish. And I really believe in therapy. And I know from my personal life that BetterHelp is helping. So this is just something you want to try out. If it's something you're interested in, if it's something you feel like you need or you want, our listeners can get 10% off their first month of online therapy at BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. Thanks, everybody. Sleep With Me is brought to you by Progressive. Have you tried the Name Your Price tool yet? It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to find a rate that works for you. It's just one of the many ways you could save with Progressive. Get your quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. All right, everybody, it's time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The one part of the podcast I need you here. It's where I pop my peas, if you please. I thank the listeners who supported the sponsors. That's how we really are here, free twice a week. And I'm recruiting people for the Sleepy Supporter Zone. If you supported Headspace, you signed up and you've been using Headspace, you heard about them on the show, please let them know about it and let me know about it. Tag them on social media, make a post about it, and tag me or let me know about it, and then fill out the form at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors, and I'll mail you some stickers. So if you signed up for Headspace, tag them, tag me, fill out the form at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors, and we'll go from there. And I can also thank you here on the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The second part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone is you getting the support you need. There's links to resources in the show notes if you need them right now. And there's also resources so you can be a part of positive change. Say Black Lives Matter with your actions. Stand with the AAPI members of our community with your actions. And one of the organizations I support is the Loveland Foundation at thelovelandfoundation.org, or use the link in our show notes. You could support them or you could find out more on their website. The Loveland Foundation is committed to showing up for communities of color in unique and powerful ways, with a particular focus on Black women and girls. And their resources and initiatives are collaborative, and they prioritize opportunity, access, validation, and healing. And like I said, you could support them at thelovelandfoundation.org. And that is the end of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. Oh, Mr. Bard, a lot of people help out in this show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Poster Son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes too. Carl W. the Legend also edits episodes. Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the mystery bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support your scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Hannah like banana. Leah does.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. You can sign up for our newsletter. That's the best way to keep in touch at sleepwithmepodcast.com/newsletter. And what do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed and turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature. So any of those things that are that might be keeping you. Any of those things maybe that are keeping you awake. So like things about the past, present, or future. That you're thinking about, feelings you're feeling, or physical sensations, or it could be something else. It could be something outside, it could be something nearby, it could be a temperature thing or a seasonal thing. Or if you're like me, you just don't know. And you say, wait a second, what's going on with this? And sometimes it can be really strange. Sometimes, I have sometimes. Well, anyway, I don't want to put any ideas in your mind, but. Yeah, sometimes I say I'm half asleep and my brain's still thinking about stuff, and then I wake up and I say, okay, that's my newest technique, and not to go off topic super early, but I've talked about this. It's important for me. I mean, this show is a part of this. It's just to give yourself a little break, because that's one of the things I make this show, but this goes beyond the podcast. Is, through this whole 2020, it hasn't been easy, and for me, a lot of times it's like giving myself a break, and I mean that in a specific way in this case, which is like if I'm waking up super early or I notice I'm doing that like pseudo insomnia or whatever you want to call it, or half asleep overthinking, or ANXIOUS sleeping or whatever. I don't even know. Those are just made up terms, by the way, but when that happens recently, just because things have been not so easy, I think I've been able to be nice to myself. I'm like, okay, wow, it's early. I would prefer not to get up right now. What if we just try to lie here and relax instead of getting back to sleep? Maybe we'll fall back asleep. Maybe we won't. But maybe I could just lie here. Oh, this mattress is really comfortable. I never noticed that. Or sometimes I'll read if it's depending on the time. But this one's a little bit different. It just says, hey, let's just lie here and rest. And let's not try to get an objective, because then that's when the RFUST, those feelings for me come up. So sorry, that was a tangent, but just a little, like a pro-am tip, as I say, professionally amateur tip that I've been using for the past few months, particularly in the when it's not the morning. And I say, well, it's not the morning yet, technically, for me, in my opinion. So I'd rather not get up right now. And I say, okay, let's just lie here and rest. We're still resting, right? And, sometimes I fall back asleep, sometimes I don't. But sometimes, I lie there and rest. And maybe this podcast could be a part of that for you, too. I don't know. That's like a way some people use it already. But I don't know. I just want to point that out because I know it's not easy out there. So if you're new or you're a regular listener, you might say, Scoots, here's what I'm offering to attempt to do. I'm going to try to create a safe place, like I said, where you could set aside whatever's awake. I'm going to smooth the safe place. I'm going to rub it down. I'm going to say safe place. I'm going to do a little dance maybe. Then I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Pointless meanders, which means I'm going to go off topic, superfluous tangents. I guess neither one of those was superfluous or pointless. But so that was very rarely I'll have relevant. Here's a question I've been asked a million times. Can a tangent ever be relevant? That was I think, I don't know if it was Cambridge or Oxford that invited me to a debate with someone that had they had their name, Dr. Blankety Blank, And then it had she had about 4,000 different letters after her name. And I said, probably not qualified to be in the same room as her. So no, and they said, well, what would the topic be? And they said, it would be, you'd talk to her about, what did I say the thing was? Is there poignancy and pointlessness? And they said, no. Can a pointless meander ever, relevancy and irrelevancy? And I said, this sounds like a good episode. Maybe we'll just have to record this as an episode. And they said, okay, when can you come by? And I said, kick right back and I'll tell you. So maybe that's what we'll talk about tonight, I guess. But anyway, where was I? My point was that this podcast goes off topic and doesn't ever reach a point. Pointless meanders and superfluous tangents. Everything that I do on this show is to keep you company and to take your mind off of whatever's keeping you awake. And if you're new, there's a lot of things you probably could use. And regular listeners, you can always be reminded of this. And I'll do this at the top. Is the most important thing is you deserve a good night's sleep. The reason I make the show is because I really, truly believe that. I believe that if you get the rest you need and you have a place of solace, a safe place, if I could be a part of that or a part of a routine that works for you, that makes bedtime less of a thing to dread and more something you either look forward to or feel neutral about, I've done my job. And in some sense, I've contributed to your well-being and your well-being or your ability to flourish or just live your life a little bit fuller. That makes the world, for me, a better place to be in, too. And some people might say Pish Posh, that just makes me laugh. But maybe that could be who I could debate is Pish Posh. But yeah, it really is important to me, and I really think it does contribute to the improvement of our world, even if it doesn't impact me. Just knowing that, and you say, well, why? Because I've been there, tossing, turning, mind racing trouble. You just heard me talk about. So I know how it feels, and I know the frustration, I know the loneliness, and I know the desperation, because I know how it feels. So that's why it's important for me to help you if I can. Now, if you're new, as important as those two things are to me, unfortunately, I don't have the ability to make a podcast that works for everybody. And this Sleep With Me only works for the people it kind of works for. But I will give you one free piece of advice that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have said, which is give it a few tries because this podcast is so different for a lot of people. It has a kind of a weird barrier of entry because it's like, what do you mean? I don't understand the show. It doesn't make any sense. It's strange and it's unfamiliar. And so I'll tell you some more, but I would say look at it loosely, I'm a friend you've had, or if you're more comfortable, a paid expert that is an expert in nothing but nonsensical talk, or a friend that you don't have to pay attention to. That's the ideal situation. You say, okay, you're going to call me on speakerphone or you're going to come over and you're just going to tell me something soothing and pointless that I don't have to listen to in a friendly manner. And they'd say, no, there's a podcast for that now, so I can't do it. I'm sorry. So it takes some getting used to. So give it a few tries. Some of the things I take getting used to, creaky dulcet tones. My voice is not traditionally soothing, I would say. I've been told that in much more florid prose. But you say, okay, it takes some getting used to for some people. Also, the fact that it doesn't ever get to a point, you say, when's this going to start? Or when are you going to start making sense? Or when is the sleep part going to start? And I say, well, it's kind of already started. Like, and yeah, I understand if you're having strange feelings because the show is very different. It's kind of meant not to be listened to. And it's not really here to put you to sleep. It's here to keep you company while you fall asleep, or to keep you company if you can't sleep. Like if you can't fall asleep, or you're like there, like me, lying there in bed just trying to rest and not sleep, and you just want something that makes you feel okay, or gives you something to think about so you don't get FRUS, however you spell that word with tration, frustration, or tid, or whatever. For some reason, tid made me think of fried tiddlers that I had in the Czech Republic a long, long time ago. I think it was at a German hotel, though. So, or a hotel popular with Germans. So I don't know if a tiddler, I don't know. Just when I thought of that, sorry about that's a free form tangent. Okay, so yeah, this podcast. So if you can't sleep, the show's about an hour to give you plenty of time to drift off, so you don't have to watch the clock and wonder. But it's also here to keep you company if you can't sleep. So that's another thing to know. And this is a little late to explain this, so maybe some people kind of already hung up the phone on their proverbial friend. But structurally, the show is structured very different because it's a sleep podcast and because it comes out twice a week and we put a lot of work into it. Structurally, it starts off with a greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary, so that you feel seen and you feel welcome and you know this is a welcome place, that I'm trying to create a safe place for everybody. Then there's business, and that business and the business in the middle of the show is what keeps the show free, which I'd prefer. I prefer the podcast free versus behind a paywall. Then there's an intro, which we're pretty much, 3/4 of the way through. The intro is somewhere around 12 to 20 minutes of the podcast. And this is kind of the number one thing that throws new people off. And then if you become like a veteran listener, which I would say anybody that listens more than 3 times is a veteran listener, you realize, the intro kind of serves a purpose and is purposeless, or it's like, where are you going? When are you, like, an intro is supposed to serve a purpose. And I say, yeah, this intro serves a different purpose. So most intros, they say, yada, 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 get to the show. We're going to talk, like, this is the dance cast where we talk about dancing and dance related things, or this is the imaginary Oxford-Cambridge debate cast, where we're going to be talking about a debate coming up with Scooter and Pish Posh. And we'll cover all the highlights of the debate. And then we'll say goodnight. We'll say good day. So let's get out. Let's get it started. That would be a normal podcast intro. Ours, the intro serves one purpose, to introduce new people to the show, and that takes a lot of explaining. 2, I have a tendency to go off topic and never get to the point, so that's another thing that can happen. Then 3, the intro for most listeners serves as a buffer between daytime and nighttime. So it gives you some place to get some distance, whether you start listening as you're getting ready for bed or when you're in bed or as you're already lights out getting comfortable. Or if you're lying there trying to rest or whatever, it just gives you a way to wind down. A long landing strip is the way I like to look at it, to ease you into bedtime. So that's one of the purposes the intro fills. Other is just to keep you company, something familiar for the regular listeners, but something new every time. Because, like, for me, my brain adapts, or whatever parts of me that want to keep me awake adapt. And so I'm committed to keeping this thing fresh because of that, because I think that's what works best, is to have something new to look forward to, right? And it keeps me polished. Like, I gotta outsmart those brain bots by loving them. Oh boy, I'm not trying to outsmart all you brain bots by doing anything crafty. Just love and compassion and presence and being here for all of you. The brain bots are the part of me that overthinks and keeps me awake. So structurally, so there's the intro. And as you become a regular listener, if you do, which you don't have to, it's kind of optional, but just give it a few tries. If you do become a regular listener, you could see how your relationship with the intro develops. And why I say that is, like, a lot of people start it before they get in bed, but then some people start it, at different stages in their wind down routine. 2% of people skip it. Then another couple thousand people listen to story-only episodes on Patreon. So you could kind of see how it goes is the main thing. And I guess, structured. Then after the intro is business. Again, that's how I keep it free. Then there'll be a story. I guess tonight will be my recounting of that debate with Pish Posh in Oxford, Cambridge, or maybe, what happened with that. So I'll have to just say yes to that. I was going to turn down that thing, but, as I was doing the intro, I could hear your brain thinking, Scooch, you should really do that debate. It sounds really boring. And I said, no problem. I'll make it boring and barely engaging at the same time. So that'll be what we'll talk about tonight. Then there'll be a thank yous at the end of the show. So that's a structure show. That's everything to expect. I mean, the main thing I want to, is like, give it a few tries. That doesn't benefit me. It's just what most listeners said. And I hope the podcast can benefit you. And I'm not trying to disregard your skepticism, because most people that come to this podcast are skeptical. And even one of my favorite things to read is people that didn't like the show and then came back to it a year or two later. Maybe they started a family or a new job, or they had something in their life that came up. And at first their skepticism or their internal critic or whatever was said, I don't like Scooter, and I don't like that show. I don't like the creaky dulcet tones or the pointless, kind of like that Green Eggs and Sam guy or whatever it is. Green Eggs and Sam. Isn't that what it should have been called? Green Eggs. Well, anyway, so... And then they come back to the show with fresh ears, or they say, oh, no, this is a friendly, goofy thing. So just give it a few tries. I just want to help, I guess is my main thing. I'm really appreciative of you checking the show out and your time. And I really work very, very hard, believe it or not, and yearn and strive to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple ways we're able to bring you this podcast twice a week. Thanks. Sleep With Me is brought to you by Progressive. Have you tried the Name Your Price tool yet? It works just the way it sounds. You tell Progressive how much you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll show you coverage options that fit your budget. It's easy to start a quote, and you'll be able to find a rate that works for you. It's just one of the many ways you could save with Progressive. Get your quote today at Progressive.com and see why 4 out of 5 new auto customers recommend Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. All right, hey everybody, it's Scoots here. I'm actually recording this as I'm supposed to. This is interesting. I guess I got invited. It's a good thing I have you see, Scoots, how are you doing this? I say, well, it's interesting. You walk me through it. And I say, okay, well, first I got to tell you where I am and what I'm doing. I think one part of my story brain's ahead of the other part. But yeah, where am I? What are we doing? Why are we here? Oh, those pesky questions. Well, I'm here. Okay, so I got to say, where am I? Who, what, where, when, why? We'll never get, if we get to why, we'll never get anywhere. Who am I? Scooter, your buddy Scoots here. What? Well, let me get to where. I'm outside of one of those, I'm outside, so I don't know what it looks like inside, but also there's like a temporary green room. One of those picturesque, I wouldn't say it's on a postcard perfect, or is it called postcard perfect or picture perfect postcard? But this would not be on a postcard, but it is filmic, and you've seen it before, and it's almost an archetypal image of a classroom, a lecture hall on Well, I should have looked at the signs. I don't know if we're on the Cambridge or Oxford campus. Maybe on either one. Did I say neither one? But I'm outside of the classroom. And even the doors, those old wooden doors with, I don't know if they're called leaded windows, but the windows that have, they're in shapes and they have different levels. I don't know how, they're not etched. No, good question, vocabulary brain. I was looking for actually a vocabulary word I needed and not one I don't need. But the glass, I'd say it's prismatic, but it's, so there's one door that goes into the lecture hall. Then there's one further down up some stairs that goes into the back of the lecture hall when you're late for class. This is the one when you want to go into the classroom. It's a lecture hall, so probably, 300, 400 people. Like you would go in this particular door if you're on time or very early, or you want to sit in front, or you're like some sort of rebellious figure or a disruptive figure and you go to class late, but you want to make a statement. Or maybe you inadvertently make a statement, not to go off topic, but this, when sometimes you have there's the idea of making your dreams come true. There's even that song by Hall & Oates, which I think I did an episode about, but one time in the last 10 years, so before the podcast, but not that far before, and I've talked about this on my life journey episodes, I started taking classes at community college here. Now, one of the problems with me taking classes, in addition, this is when I had a job, I had a young daughter, and, multiple things, and I have dyslexia. So, let's see. Did I drop out of this class? I don't think I guess I did drop out of the class. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember. I guess I did drop out of the class. I'm trying to think if I did. I can't really. I guess I did. So I signed up for one class that I went to, and then I said, well, maybe I should, on this next semester, I should do two classes. One was a screenwriting, script writing type of story class. And I had a really great teacher, Joey. And then I signed up for another class, which was actually filming stuff. I don't know if it was a cinematography class or I don't know exactly what it was, right? But, and I think I might have, so I transposed multiple things. It was a once a week class, because it was a lab length. So it's just like a 3-hour class or something. It was at night and I transposed multiple things. So I think the first day I either showed up to class an hour or a half hour late, right before we had a break. And then I said, oh boy. Then I think I did something else. I made it to the second class, I believe. And then I never went back. I don't think. I could never recover from the embarrassment because I feel like I went to multiple classes, though. So I'm not exactly sure, but it was one of those things where you dream about it, a lot, your whole life, you dream about showing up to class and not knowing, or I do, not knowing where, I definitely didn't know where the class was. That happens to me all the time. And actually now I'm picturing another class that kept changing rooms. What class was that? Maybe that was this class. I don't know. But so, because I can remember going to class and saying, wait a second, it's not in that room anymore. But this one, I had trouble finding it as well, and being on time. And then I liked the class. I liked the professor very much. I think I withdrew too late. I mean, I was taking it. I got a whatever, when you drop out, but you didn't drop out on time. Not that I was doing these for kind of professional development, I guess. So anyway, I just remember walking to that class, thinking, okay, I made it, whatever. It was 6:30 p.m. and the class started at 5. And I was like, oh, why is it I'm I thought I was like right on time or 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early and the class was going on. So that could happen too for the door I'm standing in front of was my point. You could show up to class and disrupt it unintentionally. So I just wanted to point that out. But to the left of this door is another door that goes behind, that's behind the lecture area. And why? So where am I? That's where we've established that. Why or what? I'm supposed to participate in debate later with someone named Pish Posh about can a pointed meander be a meander? But I said, well, I have other designs. I'll just be straight with you. And I have no intention of participating in the debate. Let's just be straight. So I have a plan to discuss. And I said, well, later, because this person, Pish Posh, was like a doctor and works at one of these schools here, which you got to be top of the line to go to. So I said, well, now you say how Scoot's in this era, because I don't know when you're listening to this, but when I'm recording this is September 2020. And so I said, okay, what would happen? So more backstory before we get to more backstory, or this is the first backstory, right? How did I get here though? I got to explain it. So Sleep With Me has been going on a long time. So there's some historical things in the podcast that listeners in the last few years might not know about. And I want to fill you in on those because those give me some of these magical powers that, so there's a couple of them. Oh, I heard some part of me said imagination. I said, well, yeah, actually powered by imagination. Well, there's two things we've used, and I poured them into one of that platform, ZOOM. It wanted me to do an annual. I said, no, I'm not paying. But I said, what if I get this stuff in there? Will that enable me to okay, so transverse plane is one of them. Transverse plane, and even to get to the transverse plane, I had to do some, because I can't go there, because it's like not where I live. It's behind a bed and breakfast. You go, anybody that's been to a bed and breakfast or seen one in a movie, you know the standard setup for the most part, not all of them. But there's French doors that open up onto a patio or straight into a garden. That's like 90, I think like there's an accreditation. You say, wait a second, you don't got French doors that open up into some garden area or garden-like area, but this place does. You say, sorry, you're an inn that serves breakfast. Do you have a chimney? No, we don't. Oh, well, you can't be an inn then either. Chimneys are required to be on the National Registry of Inns. You see, but the chimneys are obsolete. Oh, to you, they're obsolete. To an innkeeper, they're a necessity to be accredited. These are bureaucracies I've navigated before. Okay, so French doors at this particular bed and breakfast open up into a patio, a brick patio. It's pretty nice, and it has that mossy stuff on there. Even though, I don't know, it's just part of the look. Then there's like open lawn. I don't know if they do, good question. I don't know if they do croquet on the lawn. Probably you could. I mean, what better way to work up a sweat before you work up a sweat. So then you go down there. Then is the first layer of gardens. This place is extensive. So they have their gardens. I think right now when I'm picturing it in my mind, it's like late fall, early whatever. I was going to say early autumn, winter. So this part of the garden is more bare roses and stuff. and it has trellises, of course. Then beyond that is a pond. Now, if you go around the back of the pond, there's also cottages back there. That's where Lady Witchbeard lives, but we're not bothering her because we're not really there right now. I'm just describing it to you. Now, for some reason, only I can access this, but there's a trail. Now, if I go on that trail, the trail leads to the transverse plane. Or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't realize I only have access to it. Otherwise, it'd be like, this would be like in an action, mild action movie. The secrets of this place would be an accredited bed and breakfast because they have French doors. They have a chimney, so they could be an inn as well. Maybe it's two chimneys. Why is there two N's in chin? Because you need two chimneys. Is there an M and an N in chimney? I think they're at chimney. Yeah, I guess there is. Okay, so you get to the back of this pond, and I take a path, and I go to the transverse plane. Now, the transverse plane is a place where, like, it's like I guess now in modern parlance, they would call it like where you could access the multiverse. But that just sounds too neat. That's why it's called the transverse plane. Now, transverse plane is more like a multiverse, entering the multiverse. That sounds like something you would do with intention. The transverse plane it takes you on a journey. You don't just use it. It's not a tool. It's a place you go, and then it takes you someplace within the multiverse. Their words, not mine. So it's just basically a plane you walk into. Then it has this effect when you know it's working, where it could become like, at least as far as visually, like candy, like cotton candy, candy corn, interesting stuff. And then as you keep traveling, then I would escort someone and I would take them on the journey to find out what they need. Hint, hint of what's happening next. Now, I don't know if it's before or after the transverse plane, I had two other things I would use. But right around the same time, I got access to I created one magical item. I had this magical ticker tape, which is a machine, and it kind of prints stuff out. It was like a stock ticker, I think, is what a magical ticker tape would do. Very steampunky. You've never seen anything more steampunk in your life. Except you say, where's the steampunk going in? And they say, where the heck is this information coming from anyway? But the magical ticker tape would give me information. It also obviously had some sort of cosmic powers because it wasn't running on Steam. And it wasn't plugged into anything. And that would give me information, like some would be very direct information, like the Silvertone. He became the official jazz singer of the podcast, Chris Williams, like way back when I first discovered that. It was like, okay, the Silvertone, still officially the official jazz singer of Sleep With Me podcast. But other times, somehow the ticker tape machine, this is like, talk about deep cuts. Like, and you say, how did you meet Tom and Pounce? Or you'd say, who's Tom and Pounce? I'd say, well, this is going to be painful to them. But you say, well, they're somewhat obscure characters on Sleep With Me podcast. They live with my neighbor Ray. Under different names, Mikey and Pounce, and also another person. But anyway, so I met them. Once upon a time, there was a TV show called Game of Thrones. And there was a character on there named Roose Bolton. That's one thing. So just hold that in your mind. Character named Roose Bolton. Also, there was once upon a time a sleep podcaster named Scooter, whose vocabulary was somewhat limited, and he rude, R-U-E, but not R-U-D-E. He found Roose Bolton rude, but he also rude Roose Bolton. And I think Scooter probably had a different definition of strongly disliked, or more than that, Roose Bolton. And somehow his ruing of Roose Bolton, even though I guess it was confused ruing, I don't know, because I looked up ruing at some point and I said, oh boy, was I using that correctly? But now I forgot the actual definition of the word again. But I think maybe it's correct to have strong negative feelings for. I think it means, no, it means I pity you, I think. Which is true. My dislike of you is so strong that I pity you. That's talk about compassion and empathy. But this was coming from more of a place of not the compassion or empathy, just a strong dislike and maybe wishing for a rueful moment. I was ruining him in a way, kind of a passive aggressive way. I was actively ruining Roose Bolton. And I don't know if I was because I was standing so close to the ticker tape machine, but it became, oh, hello. Sorry, I guess I walked into the green room for the debate, and someone's been listening to me this whole time. Hi, I'll be with you in 1 minute. Have you been listening the whole time? Okay, good. That's good that you're following along. That's Pish Posh, everybody. I guess I walked through the door when I was worried about being late for that other memory. And Pish Posh has been here prepping for our debate with at a desk. One of those desks right out of the movies with the green lamp. Don't they call that what do they call that? A barrister's lamp here? Or a student lamp? But I didn't even know until I just turned in when I was turning towards the imaginary ticker tape machine in my mind, and I saw Pish Posh there looking at me and taking notes. I don't know if that's technically within the debate rules that you could take notes, but we'll cover that. So my ruining of Roose Bolton was so strong that, and I was so close to the ticker tape machine, it created this machine, which I called the fantasy fiction I can't remember what I called it, or what it was called. It was a device. Not that different than, a much smaller version of the original Willy Wonka, the machine that made bubbles and drove around, and the boat. They were kind of the same. They probably had the same designer. Smaller version of something like that. And this was a fan fiction fantasy machine or fan fantasy fiction machine or something. And it enabled me to travel into fantasy, to fictional worlds and put a fan spin on it. And that's how I managed to get Tom and Pounce and the Gregor out of Westeros. You see, how do you get real, just like in those famous movies, Straight Out of Westeros, or Bust, and other movies like that. Those aren't movies? Well, are you sure you haven't checked, the Disney Channel? They have other channels there, Disney or something. Oh, they don't own those. Well, okay. Well, maybe they should look into it. But, so this machine let me travel the worlds of fiction and fan fiction and fantasy and do stuff, mostly get in the way and induce George R. R. Martin's ire. Well, if he knew about it, but he never knew. He said, that's what one day he'll make a blog post. He said, what's up with those? What's taking so long? He said, it's the weirdest thing. I thought it was me. And that's why I've been, saying it's just my process. I'm just taking my time and being deliberate. But the reality is there was someone mucking around in my stories and it had ramifications, and now I have ire for that person and that person's name. And then then you'd see me pop in, and then he'd say, yeah, just working on my process. I don't know what I was talking about. Okay, so that's the fan fiction fantasy machine, which I have parked outside these classrooms, by the way. So I took those things. So I said, I took the fan fiction fantasy machine, and I got a fish, one of those things like a butterfly net, one of the bigger versions like the cartoon characters have when they're trying to catch stuff. And I double bagged that with, I don't know if everybody else does this, but you have a giant thing of bags under your kitchen sink. I took 3 of those bags, drove the fan fiction fantasy machine out to the transverse plane, scooped some of the transverse plane into this triple bagged thing, and got it filled up, and then I got under the vehicle. Then I went back to the shop, a.k.a. Like where all my clutter is, my life. Then I got under this machine, the fan fiction fantasy machine. It started to open up some valves. I don't know anything about how it works or anything. But I opened up some valves and liquid started dripping out. So then I put that in the bag with the stuff I scooped out of the fan fiction fantasy machine, or the transverse plane. Oil, it was a bluish color though. And then there was something that was more of like a rusty maroon, old rusty maroon. I was stuck in an island with rusty maroon for too long. And then I put that in the bag. Then I did the old one of the old hacker tricks, right? Went on Zoom, loaded that up, and I said, and I took an Ethernet cable and a USB-C cable, USB regular, micro doser or whatever, plugged all those in as external drives. So I registered the bag of cosmic material as a triple. I mounted it as a drive. Not like that, no. Quick giggling. Like a drive. And then I said, what do you call that? Choose your background. And it chose this bag of, that said upload new background. Don't do this either, by the way, because it's not possible. Also, I can never update my Zoom again. So if anybody's wondering why it's lagging, it's because I'm on a earlier version, or I have to downgrade. So this will continue to work. It's a seat because they fixed it, of course, as soon as they found out. They said you're using our platform to disrupt the fabric of the universe. And I said, no, I have a debate in Oxford. I can't just fly there. Also, I don't plan. Pish Posh. Also, I don't plan on participating in the debate. So that's how I got here. Basically, once they loaded the background, boom, I was here. And so the two of us, Pish Posh, I know you were scheduled to debate me on can a pointless meander be pointed? And I'm sure you're correct in your observations. Because you seem like a reasonable individual. But I would like to just take you for a trip on my, on my Zoom background, which is actually well, I don't know what it is. And we just go for a journey about because I just went on one pointless meander. So I think maybe we could take let's start with the finale. Let's start with this. How do you want the debate to end, and how do you want our journey to end? Pish, because I say, also I had a question for you that I forgot until right now. So have you ever considered being a Spice Girl? Or because you say Pish Posh, but Posh, there's already Posh Spice. Could there be a Pish Spice? Could you say, well... Or like you say, well, I'm the second. I'm actually Posh's sister. My family loves Posh so much. Of course, they named me Pish Posh. But yeah, I'm Pish Posh Spice. Technically just call me Pish Spice because I'm kind of not happy about the Posh part. So what if we end the journey in an empowered way so I'm right. I know. I pick up on this stuff. So we could look into that. Cause I know you probably left. Yeah, but that's the end, right? So we find out that you the journey, what you learned on your journey after you left the Spice Girls. Oh, because you were never a part of them, of course, because they were like rehearsing in your sister's room or something. Oh, she has a whole wing. Oh, interesting. Of a home. Okay, well, that's interesting, too. I didn't know that. So that would be where you became the greatest debater ever. So that's one part of it. Okay, so we got that part of the finale. Our debate would end. Are you like a consensus, like, are you a debater that goes to kind of like, okay, yeah, you're right. You're trying to build positivity and empowerment. Great. So can I just say that your conclusion would probably be, could be, can a pointless meander be pointed? Could be, right? Like you would debate both sides of it kind of, or help me. Like you would make all your points that normally it wouldn't be, but then you would kind of take my points and then you would build on those to a conclusion, could be. And then there would be a universal lesson, which would be, be open-minded. Oh, so you would even pretend you were closed-minded at the start of the debate. Wow, you really are brilliant. No wonder. Good thing you weren't in the spot. I mean, other than all the positives of being in the I thought I was going to be cinnamon spice. Do you mind calling me? And I forgot that there was a character in Wind Up Bird Chronicles. You're right. Is it? I just finished reading it again, but I had forgotten about cinnamon in that book. But before that, I said, I'd like to be cinnamon spice. So you could be Pish Spice. Pish Spice is really hard to say. No wonder they said Pish Posh Spice. Here's another question, though. So if your sister... Okay, it's too complicated to explain. Okay, so that's part one. Okay, so we got to the end. So let's set sail in my vehicle here. We could pretend... I'm friends with Lady Witchbeard. Well, friends is a strong word, but... we're associates. So let's like a bunch of pirates. Let's like two pirates. Let's set sail. Pirates of knowledge and positive. Like, is there a way to do that? No, that would be the antithesis. Oh, thanks. That's a great word. So we'll set sail in my vehicle. Now, just so you know, this may not be an accurate representation of your journey to where we just ended up. Particularly, I probably have used the machine in this manner before, but I never remember it. But I guess the whole goal of this journey is to establish some peace of mind. And there we are. We see you in your room, and I can see you pacing around your room. What are you, about 11, 12 years old? Yeah. And your hands are over your ears, and yeah, that's not I wouldn't call that singing either. I would agree with you, but that is some, right in the other room is your older sister and her friends. Now, was there more spices other than sporty, posh? Is there a vanilla spice? Because I wouldn't mind I could be vanilla. Well, vanilla spice would be like 1980s, not 90s. Posh, sporty. I forget the rest of the Spice Girls. I'm so sorry. Ginger Spice? That no? But one of the Spice Girls was like formerly known as Ginger, right? Okay, don't get distracted. Yeah, this is about you. Pish Posh Spice. What about PP Spice? That one, even though that's like a kind of, that's something like, oh, you're right, PP. I didn't realize that till now. I don't know, there's something nice about it. PP Spice. I don't know, maybe like an insurance sales, or a realtor. PP Spice. Or, yeah, something disgusting. You're right. I say, no, thank you. PP Spice? No, just leave it off, please. Thanks. No, don't even. Can you make my food at another place? Never mind. I'm not going to shop here. Okay, so anyway, we're back at your room. You're looking for some peace of mind because your sister and her friends are rehearsing, or business partners, or bandmates, and yeah, it's not easy. This is a stage of childhood that where they just keep singing the same songs over and over again. Yeah, that happens. I was just thinking about it the other day. Not to make this about me, but I will right now. I just had this regret that bubbled up recently that I should probably talk about. Maybe then you could use it as part of your journey. Maybe I could come talk. Yeah, here we are. I'm in your room. You're just observing. Hey, how you doing? You're Pish Posh, right? Do you mind if I just call you Pish? This is a great room. What is that noise? Seems like thoroughly distracting. Oh, that's your sister. Oh, well, I'm here. I'm a consultant. I'm here to speak to you about some things. I heard you're a great listener, actually. No one's ever told you that? Well, I've heard that before. Like, I've heard, let's go and is there like, does this place have like a sub basement that we could not hear this, music? I was going to talk to you about music, though, while we walk. Yeah, so I mean, actually, you'll never believe this till one day when you realize it, and you decide not to debate me, just to preserve my self-esteem and my, desire not to be the focus of any kind of attention, except in situations where I want attention, like this one. But yeah, I'm a consultant from another world, and I'm here to be listened to. You never heard of a consultant like that? Well, yeah, believe it or not, if I was charging, you wouldn't be living in this mansion. Is this like, do you have superpowers? Maybe we could cover that in another, because I do want to do a story about, do you know who the Care Bears are? Okay, yeah, you're here to listen. But yeah, I heard you're a great listener, and listening is one of the most important skills, if not the most important skill, and very misunderstood. So hopefully I set you on, remember, oh, that's what you were reading, a book about listening? That's why you were so interested that I said you were a good listener? Oh, I was just, I guess, kind of hoping that I was the one that set you forth on the path to become the world's foremost listener. Well, you're already on the path. I guess I'll just encourage you and give you some practice. So now that you can't hear your sister and her friends rehearsing or squawking, to use your term, but I just wanted to talk to you about this memory I had that there's a part of me I guess I have to make amends to one person that's with us, and one person that's not with us. And probably I don't even though I was clear of mind, I think I was in 8th grade. And I have a few sets of regrets. So I had a new friend, kind of, I'd say, who quickly became a very close friend, dare say even a best friend. And this was probably January, February, March. And we had tickets to a basketball game, and my father said, you can invite one of your friends to go to this basketball game with us. But first we're going to go to a reception to my school that I went to, because my school is one of the teams playing in this event. Now, at the time, this was in a station wagon, and it's interesting. Maybe you're the same age as I was, and we're in the, not important, but I'm just thinking this is true. Or maybe your sister's the same age as me when I was in this age. Okay, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm going, thank you that's good listening. You're just helping to keep me on track. If I had you in my life, I wouldn't probably have sleep podcasts, believe it or not, because I'd be on track all the time. But because we're so off track, so I'm so glad you could listen to me, though. Thank you for your eye contact and your body. Okay, so at the time, this was and also I was about to, like, I think because this memory came up because I was thinking about getting back in touch with this friend of mine named Jeremy. And I said, man, and I have another memory with him that I regret, but oh, yeah, I could focus on things I don't regret, too. You're right. That's one of my life goals. Wow, you are perceptive. I wonder if the adult you could see you, I can't even imagine the all the good feelings that would be generated and empowerment and joy. And I could almost feel, the heart growing of someone who already had a big heart that's observing nearby and is so full of gratitude for this that she doesn't debate him in front of an Oxford, Cambridge audience. But anyway, back to me, of course, you're right. In my little team, I thought I was here to take you on a journey, but I'm just here to be listened to. So at the time, there was a singer named Tiffany who was very popular. Yeah, right around the time New Kids on the Block, exactly. And I don't know what the name, she had a Beatles song she redid, but there was also another song. No idea what it is now. I think We're Alone Now. Yeah. Oh, I think you're right. And so Jeremy and I were in the way back of my car. I think that song came on, and then we kept singing it over and over again. And we were very happy and full of joy. Maybe if there was any other kids in the car, they were singing. But the adults did not like this. So even though it was going on in the back of the car, it was like a disconnect. We were having fun, but I'm sure, because I guess now as an adult I can relate to this, you'd say, I appreciate you love that song and that you love singing it over and over again and fragments of the song over and over again. And I think that's a good thing. And I think back then, this was the 80s, the way the adults would deal with it is just raise their voice or, I don't know what happened then because it was a friend. They say, well, we just got to endure this. We were singing that song, but what happened was then we got to this thing, and I guess what I was really here to apologize for is then we got to this reception, and I think there was a picture of my dad there because it was like an alumni reception, and the president or the vice president of the university was there, which I didn't really know at the time that was like a big deal and I was asking him if my father was an NERD or not. And I think I thought it was pretty funny. And he got really irritated and yelled at me, understandably, because I think I wouldn't let it go. I remember saying, wow, that guy's a real grouch, instead of saying, what are you doing? Like, why are you giving your father a hard time when he's here to have fun? And I like him very much, your father, and have great respect for him. So you're getting on my nerves, kid. So I guess I'd like that person is no longer with us. So I'd like to say, geez, I'm sorry. That was a mistake. I was really a JERK. Thank you for nodding, like you could accept my apology on their behalf. And I can apologize to my dad. Don't worry, I'll do that after I record this. And then, what was my point? Oh, later in life, I encountered him. I mean, I would encounter him from time to time because I ended up going to the same university. And I encountered him one time when I needed a ride, and I was waiting for a ride that didn't show up. And I was in Manhattan, and he just happened to be there because we're at like a satellite campus at the time. And he said, and I was with, I think it might have been even after my trip to the Guggenheim. Though it could have also been after I was working at an internship. And he pulled up and he said, "You need a ride?" And I said, "Yeah." And then he gave us a ride. Maybe it was after my internship, but I don't know. I can't remember. And he was, what do you call it? He, can't remember. Oh, so he had just seen a Matisse. He was very jazzed because he had just gone to a Matisse exhibition. And so the whole time he talked about Matisse. Then I think I talked about my dad, and he said, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And maybe he talked about him. But mostly he talked about Matisse and his love of Matisse and the immediacy of his experience going to this exhibition was very impressive to me. And now, and I guess I was thinking about it, even when I think about this regret, you're right, finding the positivity in there. So he was now retired, but still working at the university, I think, or maybe president of student affairs or something. So he was like a retirement age, or maybe even past retirement age, but still engaged with the student population. But he was also still engaged. So he lived in the Bronx, and then he drove all the way into Manhattan, found parking, and then walked from, I guess, the satellite campus. So he got free parking or whatever at the satellite campus, I guess. Then walked to the museum, which I'm trying to think what museum, or maybe took the subway to go to this. I mean, that's for me a life lesson that he was still drinking from the cup of life in art. And I just think that's really, really amazing and cool. I don't know. So it's still with me. It's still with me. Oh, it looks like you fell asleep. Well, that's good. Okay, so we're going to go. Let me just, let me just put this drop cloth on you while you rest. And you'll have a future of listening and not debating sleep podcasters one day. And if you would like to climb back in with me, Pish Posh, we'll travel back. Can you tell me your impressions of that journey we went on, other than my pandering to your good listening? Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Oh, because you never saw the joy that your sister had in being a Spice Girl. You always had your own feelings about it, and you never really saw that even back then they were consumed by their own joy in a good way. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say it's difficult. Like I said, even as an adult parent, I say, well, that's great. You love that song. Is there a way you could sing quieter with less joy? But that's just not an option. So I guess we both have to learn together. Do you think you're going to start listening to their music again? Maybe. Oh, maybe you'll try to, maybe you just reconnect. She's not really your sister. Okay, well, so we're back at campus. Why don't you go deal with you had us on speaker the whole time. So the students were listening. Oh, they were even listening when I was talking about showing up to class late. Oh, good. So I guess that's a debate wrapped up, huh? We didn't even really have to debate anything other than, and I mean, I guess what did we learn? Listening is the key to debate. You don't even need listening and discussion, AKA debate, are intrinsically connected. That's a good word. Thank you. And listening's not easy. Sometimes even great listeners have trouble listening to people when they're singing with joy repeatedly the same song over and over again. And they didn't let their younger sister or younger sister figure join them. And yeah, there's probably more healing that could go there. Yeah, that life really is a part of life is our relationship with the past, but there's also good things in the past that were easy to gloss over. It is good to apologize for our mistakes. You're right about that. Would you say that this meander we went on was pointed, twisted, but with a point? Oh, boy. Wow. That is a way. Meander was twisted with a point. Thank you so much. Thank you, Oxford. Thank you, Cambridge. Thank you, Roose Bolton, Bed and Breakfast Institute of American Global Institute of Inns, accreditations, and thank you all you for listening. Good night. All right, I want to thank everybody that became a patron recently. Thank you, and thanks and good night to Catherine, Guillermo, and Jennifer. Thanks, and good night to Ben, Nancy, and Aaron. Thanks, and good night to Mark, Sid, and Adrienne. Thanks, and good night to Adam W., Adam P., and the Yarnery. Thanks, and good night to Maya, Julia, and Greg. Thanks, and good night to Adrian, Mike, and Sarah. Thanks, and good night to Kirsten, Josh, and Alexandra. Thanks, and good night to Ken, Jesse, and Martha. Thanks, and good night to Jenny, Carolyn, and Vero. Thanks, and good night to Christine, Catherine, and Spencer. Thanks, and good night to Chastity, Vanessa, and Tara. Thanks, and good night to Kate, Tyler, and Suzanne. Thanks, and good night to Alex, Mary, and Holly. Thanks, and good night to Tanny, Jordan, and Molly. Is that two Mollys? Did I just say Molly? No, I guess not. Holly and Molly. And Ariana. Thanks, and good night to everybody who supported the show on Patreon. Sleep Me really exists as a free podcast because people support the show directly on Patreon or support our sponsors. And we grow as a podcast, which is just as beneficial from people who spread the word just in natural conversation and stuff like that. Just let somebody know about the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and good night.